the Navy's 2 Ohio-class nuclear-powered guided missile submarines. And South Korea officials say the submarine is visiting Busan to allow the crew shore leave and to load up supplies. They say there is no plan for the submarine to participate in any naval drill.
There's no particular movement related to direct provocation until now, but we are maintaining a firm posture of readiness in order to respond to any possible actions.
Tensions on the Korean peninsula continue to rise. China is calling for peace and reason.
The current situation on the Korean peninsula is complex, sensitive, and highly intense. We urge all parties concerned to keep calm.
China's relationship with the DPRK has deteriorated as Beijing implements punitive UN sanctions. Foreign Minister Wang Yi has repeatedly said the key to resolving the nuclear issue is not in China's hand.
There have been enough confrontational acts and rhetoric recently. What we need are rational voices and peaceful solutions.
China knows that it is unrealistic to assume that denuclearization could be achieved simply by pressure from Beijing, and that it cannot be solely responsible for bringing about a nuclear-free peninsula. As the DPRK's biggest neighbor, China has been viewed as a vital supporter. But its influence is becoming increasingly limited as Pyongyang insists on its own agenda.
I think on the Korean Peninsula, our top priority is China's own national security interests.
China used to regard the DPRK as a strategic buffer zone. Now there have been debates about Pyongyang's role in its security, and there are mixed feelings about sanctions. But there also seems to be a growing consensus to adjust its relationship with the DPRK. The government is taking a parallel track approach to support dialogue to engage, while use sanctions to pressure. As the DPRK vows to continue nuclear tests and the U.S. pushing new actions, the risk of open conflict on the peninsula is high. China has been taking a more proactive approach while stressing that its policy remains consistent. It's unclear whether Beijing's changing tactics can bring about any change to Pyongyang's nuclear ambitions. It takes time to see what it means to the security landscape in Northeast Asia. Han Bin, CGTN, Beijing.
The USS Michigan enters the South Korean port of Busan, carrying 150 Tomahawk missiles. The docking comes on the day North Korea marks the 85th anniversary of the People's Army. Officials in Seoul played down fears of escalating tensions.
The submarine is visiting Busan to reload military supplies and to allow its crew to take a break. There is no drill scheduled.
The nuclear-powered submarine is being joined by a fleet of warships headed by aircraft carrier Carl Vinson. This a day after North Korea warned of an all-out war over what it called Washington's madcap nuclear war provocations. In an unusual move, all 100 US senators have been asked to come to the White House on Wednesday to attend a security briefing. It comes after President Donald Trump hosted a lunch with ambassadors from the UN Security Council, urging them to step up action against Pyongyang.
The status quo in North Korea is also unacceptable, and the Council must be prepared to impose additional and stronger sanctions on North Korean nuclear and ballistic missile programs.
Meanwhile, in Pyongyang, residents paid their respects to the country's founder on the military anniversary. The West has been expecting provocations by North Korea on this occasion, but no nuclear or missile tests have been conducted so far.
Very interesting. I mean, that's exactly the perfect testimony of the North Korean message. You know, we are surrounded by enemies. They want to invade North Korea. We have to defend ourselves. That's why we have the nuclear program, to defend ourselves. Look at Saddam Hussein and look at Gaddafi. If they have had nuclear power, they would still be in power. So that's the rhetoric, but that's the logic. That's the main defense for them. And so far, I mean, North Korea still exists, you know, and China is behind them, of course. They might not be happy. Let's
So hang on, a denuclearized Korean peninsula would mean...
would mean impossible. I mean, for the time being, I mean, the North Korean, they would...
But would it mean the end of the North Korean regime?
That if there is no more nuclear in the north, that would mean that there is no more North Korea. You know, I mean, otherwise it cannot work. I mean,
Higher Senate on this situation. Top envoys from South Korea, Japan, and the United States are meeting in Tokyo, and an American aircraft carrier speeds toward the Korean peninsula. President Trump has promised to send, quote, an armada, saying the time to act is now.
The Council must be prepared to impose additional and stronger sanctions on North Korean nuclear and ballistic missile programs. This is a real threat to the world, whether we want to talk about it or not. North Korea is a big world problem, and it's a problem we have to finally solve. People have put blindfolds on for decades, and now it's time to solve the problem.
So with that as a backdrop, Benjamin Hall leads our coverage. He is live in London to bring us up to speed on this today. Benjamin.
Good morning, Bill. Well, that armada that President Trump spoke about is now beginning to arrive, and coupled with naval exercises with Japanese destroyers, South Korean destroyers, not to mention the USS Carl Vinson strike group, which is also approaching, it's a reminder to the North Koreans that not only are all options on the table, they're very, very close. Today, the USS Michigan, a guided missile submarine, arrived in the South Korean port of Busan in what a U.S. defense official described as a show of force. The nuclear-powered submarine is built to carry and launch ballistic missiles and up to 154 Tomahawk cruise missiles like those used in Syria. This on the day that North Korea celebrates the 85th anniversary of the founding of its military. It's a day many analysts had feared would be marked with either the testing of a nuclear device or perhaps a long-range ballistic missile. But so far, nothing has been detected. The North Koreans did carry out major live-fire drills in the east of the country, though, similar to those carried out in 2016 and said to involve around 300 to 400 artillery pieces. North Korea has often threatened to use its artillery against the South Korean capital, Seoul, if it were attacked, and they've said they're able to destroy much of that city. Also today, the U.S. envoy for North Korea met his counterparts from Japan and South Korea and said they did not believe North Korea would work with them.
We really do not believe that North Korea is ready to engage us towards denuclearization. We made clear among ourselves that denuclearization remains the goal, and we very much want North Korea to take steps towards that.
And again, reiteration from them that China holds one of the keys to this. But other analysts we're speaking to say they're not sure what influence they actually have, because nothing will make North Korea give up those weapons. They've seen what happens to other countries who do that. It doesn't end well for them. Bill?
A lot coming up this morning. Benjamin Hall, thank you, leading our coverage on all this from London today.